Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah.
We got it! We got it!
New 52 booklet.
Somebody clip this.
Welcome to Comics League Comic Talk. I'm Jared, and once again, I bring you a problem with. Now, this one, I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Tevia because this was a topic he suggested. He originally suggested I do a problem with the TomorrowVerse, and I'm going to do that. But I figured a lot of those problems with the TomorrowVerse stem just from DC animation in general. So I figured, you know what, just throw that in there as well. So let's get started. So just want to remind you guys to hit that like button because that really helps spread the video, and share this to anyone that needs to know the problems with DC entertainment, particularly animation. So let's start with this. Number one is cheap looking animation. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily blame the creators because according to my friend Sam Liu, who's been on the show many times in terms of live streams, he basically said they don't get like a large budget for these projects. So I don't necessarily blame them. I mean, let me put it this way. The DC AMU, I think, looked pretty good considering the budget. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you that. TomorrowVerse is where it gets really egregious. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Actually, no, I'll tell right now. Because it's like there was take Crisis on Infinite Earths when Superman and Wonder Woman reunite. It's cool, don't get me wrong. I'm glad to have that scene as Super Wonder shipper. But the problem is, when you look at the way they move and interact, it is very, very, very stiff. And while the content of the scene is great, the overall expression is where I take issue with, is the place with which I take issue. Just want to make sure I was speaking right. So that's really it. Number two, they rehash old stories like a lot. Here's what I mean by that. How many times have they done the death of Superman? Twice. Both times. The second time in the DCAMU was better than Superman Doomsday, but even then there were some clunky storytelling elements, like breaking up Superman and Wonder Woman off screen in favor of Lois Lane. Yes, and before you say anything, Jay Heat, in the comments, I'm never going to let that one go. Never. It's clunky as heck. But anyway, my point is they keep rehashing the old storyline. They keep rehashing the same thing over and over again, where, like, for instance, you could have said, like, instead of giving us constant death of Superman, give us like another Superman. Give us Superman Brainiac. They kind of did that. But how about you give us the Krypton saga, the new Krypton saga, when like the Kryptonians show up on Earth? That would be cool, particularly a universe with other metahumans like Superman, like Wonder Woman, the Flash, and all that. That would have been cool. So 3. Telling the audience what to like. And this is going after what this is following a couple things Britt said on the Super Wonder Legacy podcast we record and release every Monday. The problem with and the death of Superman is the best example of this. So again, going back to they break up Superman and Wonder Woman off screen, shoehorn in a Lois Lane relationship because apparently in the death of Superman, according to the creatives, Lois plays a huge role in that, which she doesn't. She shows up in it, but she doesn't play a huge role. But what happens in that scene, and obviously I'll put some dialogue in there as much as I can.
Kal-El and I had a special bond, but you were the love of Clark Kent's life.
But like Wonder Woman basically says, you know what, you're the... what Clark and I had was nice, but you're really Clark's like true love. And according to Britt, that was the creative saying, no, you should like this and not Super Wonder. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm the customer. You don't get to tell me what I should like or what I should like. if I like something and enough of me like it, you should provide more of what I like. That's the way a business is run. That's just me. I'm just a lowly political science major, but that's all. But that's really what I got from that. That's the third issue. Number 4, forcing pre-new 52 stories in a new 52 universe. This is something Atchison brought up, because if you notice, after like Justice League versus Teen Titans, I don't necessarily count that one in there because there were times in the new 52 when the Teen Titans fought. Actually, you know what? Rewind a little bit. So after Flashpoint, all the movies from Justice League War on were basically, for the most part, mostly in the new 52 timeline. That's why you had like Superman look like he was wearing the armor. He was with Wonder Woman. They were adapting new 52 storylines like Throne of Atlantis, like Justice League Origin. And that was awesome the way they did it. And they did it very faithfully. Throne of Atlantis I kind of got because not having Aquaman on the Justice League, I understood because they wanted to give him the origin story in Throne. So I was like, for the most part, I'm fine with that because guess what? It's still for the most, as close as they can get, it's accurate to that book. You get the overall spirit of that book, so I'm fine with it. But anyway, back to this. Then all of a sudden, the death of Superman. And I'm like, why? Because he didn't die from Doomsday in the universe. What they should have done, and this is what Britt suggested, do the Superman Doom storyline when Superman is turning into Doomsday. Then you could do a Brainiac invasion. You could combine that 2 parts. Number 1 is Superman Doomed, where you have that, and then you could have the Brainiac invasion. Or how about just the Superman Wonder Woman power couple movie that would have adapted that arc and had like Zod and Feora show up. There's any number of awesome new 52 stories that they could have adapted. Hell, even on the Batman side, they barely did them because they did like Son of Batman from the Grant Morrison run, pre-new 52 part, because there was part of it that was in. They did, well, Court of Owls counts. That's one. But besides that, there was no other new 52 storyline. Even like Judas Contract. I'm like, I get it. You want to adapt like the biggest storylines and you happen to be putting them in that continuity, but it just doesn't make sense. And it forces these characters to act like versions they are not. And then finally, too many random ideas over stories that would sell. And this is really a newer one because for those of you that didn't hear, the first animated project for DC, for the DC studios, the first animated project is Jurassic League. So this is coming after reports came out that they had been pitched a Batman Beyond Spider-Verse style animated movie. That would sell up the yin-yang if they did that. But again, no, they choose not to. And I'm like, you had something that would work. You know it would sell because Batman, anything sells. I got news for you. Anything Batman sells. And you choose not to do that. Are you kidding me? And again, Superman Doom, Superman Wonder Woman, all of these ideas would sell. But you know how I know that? Because the comics themselves sold. So take what sells well in the comics, not just like the 18th time adapting the death of Superman. Take what actually makes you money on the comic side. I say use the comic side as an indicator because here's why. On the comic side, there's a little bit more of a overlap between fans. It's different than adapting a storyline for live action. So take what actually sells and adapt those. That's how you work. That's how you create a cohesive continuity of stories that would draw people. But that's just me. That's just in the humble opinion of this comic book fan. But anyway, so that's what I think are the 5 problems with DC animation. Let me know below your 5 problems, your problems with DC animation, how you would fix them. And be sure to subscribe and become a member, because if you become a member, you get these a day early on Tuesday. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame, and Zoe is for life. See you later.